My name is Savannah Walling. I also carry the Haida name Shiatsa, supporter of all things. I'm an immigrant to Canada from the United States, 1968. I'm trained in music and dance, and then over the years, physical theater feeding into that, and a very inter-arts kind of a practice that's happened over the years. And with Vancouver Moving Theatre, we began as a touring company, working non-verbally with masks, drums, communicating in that way. And then at a certain point, our life took us to settle in this. We had come into the neighborhood looking for affordable housing and a place where we could afford to do our art. I'm sorry, I will go off track, okay, because when we came into the neighborhood, we were part of Terminal City Dance, Terry and myself, and that was a company that we were part of for about 7 years. And then Vancouver Moving Theatre formed when the company split into the Karen Jameson Dance Company, the Society, into the Dance Center, and then what became Vancouver Moving Theatre. So we were formed in one of the Chinese clan houses in Chinatown. As I said, we were working primarily as a touring company for many years, and then when touring got harder, we started centering on our home community, learning about this home community. We started engaging in theatrical co-productions around Brecht in the Park type repertoire, other projects. We did a small festival, Strathcona Artist at Home Festival, for about 7 years. We were raising our son during that time, birth and homeschooling our son, so that was a thread that it's weaving in and through. In 2003, we were invited to partner on a big community play that would be created about the community of the downtown east side and all the different neighborhoods that I spoke of between Burrard Inlet, the False Creek Flats, Victory Square, and Campbell Clark in there, and the many drawing upon and being inspired by, influenced by, partnering with people from the host communities of the Coast Salish, Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh over the years, urban, indigenous, and different immigrant communities, including a partnership with a Ukrainian hall that we had done at a certain point, and they had the Ukrainian hall up the street. During World War II, when their hall was shut down, they were welcomed into this hall, which was then run by the Yugoslavians. And so it was a place that they could come and do their work before they were able to go back to the Ukrainian hall. And then later the Ukrainian hall split over the kind of aftermath of Stalin, etc. So a number of the members came over here, were part of the Russian hall there. I'm getting off track because one of the parts of our history has been doing various productions that have been centered here, taking place at the Russian Hall over the years. During the community, going back to the community play, this is where I met Rosemary Georgeson. And she became a story contributor to the many stories that were pouring in to this collaborative process that involved myself, Renai Morso, Adrian Wong, James Fagan Tate, and being fed, inspired by the stories of this community. Rosemary was also part of a community outreach and workshops. And then she and I ended up collaborating over the years, including on a giant screen shadow play about addiction and recovery from a downtown east side perspective that we performed here. But we also did a residency that Marie Clements led as a dramaturge at one point of the process when the Fathom Labs was underneath, was part of what Urban Inc. was doing. Then when we came out of the community play, so depleted, we, for the first time in our lives, we had no idea what would be coming in the next year because we hadn't had a chance to prepare, but we were invited to partner with the Carnegie Community Center on creating a festival. And so that's when we embarked in 2004 on the Downtown East Side Heart of the City Festival. So a partnership between Vancouver Moving Theatre and Terry, myself as the directors of this small mom and pop company, and working with the Carnegie Community Center. And in partnership with many, many, many different organizations to make it possible. So we have been creating these events, these festivals, annual festivals over the years. They're about 2 weeks in length with around 100 events or more in 30 or 40, 50 different locations depending on the year. And a way of giving voice to the many stories that are connected, come out, have cultural roots with this community. The festival that is to help support the voices of the low-income community, the neighborhoods, the different neighborhoods of this district, and the cultural communities of it. Mm-hmm. With the desire to shine an honest light that is that honors a community for whom we have a lot of respect. I left out the part of with Diane because as Diane came and took over Urban Inc., then she began some of the threads of his journey. But in those times, she brought in programming to the Heart of the City Festival from Urban Inc. And then Rose was, over the years, each year, bringing or contributing in some way to some of the productions or her personal creative journeys or our collective creative journeys. Then I will add that I've always been interested in what I'd heard of the ancestral projects that have been happening, but I'd never been in a space where I felt that I had the time or the financial resources, everything to be able to participate. But I did participate in a vocal workshop a year ago in one of the intensives. And it was very, very moving, a lot to think about and carry forward. So we were very honored and glad when Diane brought forward the proposal to link with this project, with this year's festival. I will also add that for the Heart of the City Festival, there have been different professional development opportunities that have been built into it over the years. At one point, we did some breaking in the biz forums where we'd have people from different disciplines coming in and sharing from that. And then we partnered with Jumbly Theatre in Toronto for many years on some downtown East Side Art for All institutes that were about providing leadership training and community engaged arts practice. These were usually linked in some way as an incubatory process for new creations that were happening too. So it made a lot of sense and was a very wonderful opportunity when Diane brought forward this proposal of something that would be a professional development opportunity for these artists that are seeding projects continuing in the future, but opening it up to the downtown East Side as well. And I was glad to see one of our downtown people who's been very much involved in the downtown East Side projects, including the Downtown East Side Community Play back in 2003, that Patrick Foley was joining the group today. That it's always challenging, always learning, always making mistakes, and how important it is to listen. And then for myself, I've always needed to find a way that I can link or connect in some way with my own family, threads from my own family stories or history in a way that helps it to be a kind of meaningful marriage of coming together. But it's harder for me to speak about those things extemporaneously. Remember, but also I will add that it's been really important that when we've been involved on these different journeys, that there are that the journey is following the protocols of the host community, and of the director, or that the leadership is connected with the community that the work is dealing with or coming from. So that's been a really important part of the process too. I'm at this point, there's one kind of turning point, which is that this is my last year of leading the festival, and Terry too. We do know that we're working with the company until July formally. So that we're moving into a new cycle that's partly around the kind of archiving and legacies that are emerging or weaving from these many years of experiences with the different arts-based projects, the different cultural communities, etc. Also that it's a time for being available for mentoring or advising, consulting where requested, and a time to be able to go into and pull out our family stories and histories. So is something with the ancestors going to open up for me with one of my stories? I don't know, but I am finding that a story is coming. And that I felt drawn, needing to come into the last year's workshop, drawn to come in to make sure to be able today, knowing that there is something that is calling and pulling. Even though at 78 years old, I don't know what that exactly might mean or unfold as. You know, is this poetry? Is it movement? Is it me pulled into something with somebody that somebody's leading? Is it something that, you know, those things I don't know. What was illuminating for me, I was realizing that the connecting story in all my family's histories, my mother's and my father's, they're all connected with a divided heart and the kind of conflicts that arise in a heart or within families. And so that I found myself being drawn to the story of my unhappy grandmother's mother, who died when she was when my grandmother was about 3 years old. But this was in the story. I found myself being drawn to West Virginia, where she was coming from, and the imagery was linked or being drawn to the story of this ancestor that I only know a very little about, but also whose her own father was one of twin brothers who fought on opposite sides of the Civil War. So that there were these kind of layers of division or silencing of stories in some cases between generations, and things trying to unpack and understand. And from a family where one brother was disinherited because he's fought on the north. I don't know. So anyway, it's like opening a box, you know, and seeing what's in and wondering what's going to come and what form might that take. Certainly, the importance of being guided by knowledge keepers and the practices of the cultural community, venue or place that you're working with, and to learn about the older relationships with the host nations that exist in that place that you're working. And for the new leadership, that they're not going to be needing to try to replace what we did or replicate, but hopefully that they would carry some of the same shared values around trying to work with mutual benefit with respect, with generous crediting around any of the the projects that are undertaken. I think with more preparation, I could be more articulate around these, but this is what's coming to me now.